Guys, welcome to Tomo Talks. I'm here with Tom Simon, former FBI agent and current private investigator in financial crimes. We're going to uncover the truth together. Stay tuned. You're a private investigator now.
I am, yes.
Financial stuff?
For the most part, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
when I was an FBI agent, financial crimes are my thing. I'm a CPA by trade. The largest book of my clients come to me because they've been ripped off in a financial scam and they want my help getting the money back and or shepherding that case to the FBI.
There's a lot of financial scams going on right now.
Business is booming.
So you got out a few years ago.
Yeah, I retired in 2021 and immediately, like the next day, became a private investigator.
Was that always the goal?
Well, the goal originally was to stay until age 57 when they like march you out the door at the tip of a sword at the FBI.
Got it.
But I had some time to think during like the COVID years about what I wanted to do when I retired. And I thought, well, I didn't really want to be head of security or for a bank or an investment company. I really wanted to continue doing what I was doing with the FBI, investigating cases, but this time for clients rather than the government. And I figured if I retired at age 51, I would have a longer runway to make that work.
And obviously making some money.
Well, yeah, that's the thing too.
So
the idea, and it's nice because the FBI is the federal government is one of the few employers out there that still has a pension. So I had a bit of a safety net should it not work, but it kind of took off from the beginning. I was real lucky.
So, I mean, is this company your own?
Yeah, it's me. I mean, we make it seem like this lofty company. Simon Worldwide Investigations is me, myself, and I. Yeah.
It's almost like Prestige Worldwide. Like, what was that movie?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, so you're a solopreneur more than, it's just you? Or do you have a team behind you?
It's just me. Yeah.
Just you.
Just me. Yeah. I mean, I have subcontractors I can turn to if I'm overwhelmed and I would need it. In the world of private investigations, I'm rather expensive because I also, I'm more of a forensic accountant, kind of fraud investigator.
Love it. I'm
not the guy you may want to pay money to follow around your girlfriend or your husband because you're jealous of them.
Got it.
So when those cases come in the door, they do come in the door quite a bit. I try to steer those people to private investigators that I know and trust who can give them a good job, do a good job for them at a reasonable price. Paying my rates for that doesn't make economic sense for the client.
Got it. So you're doing forensic accounting. I mean, ex-CPA makes sense.
Yeah.
Forensic accounting. I'm trying to think. What did I need a forensic accountant for recently? I needed something for.
Do a lot of expert witness testimony in court.
Okay.
So, business partner disputes.
Oh, we might talk later.
Fraud cases.
I have a good idea for you.
All right, I'm down.
I have a good idea. I might hire you. How expensive are you?
We should probably talk about that off the air.
Love it.
Where
do you get your business?
I'll work within your budget.
Fantastic. So you're FBI for
26 years. I was an agent for 26 years.
That's amazing.
I came in at age 25.
Okay.
And as a fresh-faced young CPA, and then became a special agent, and went through the application process, the FBI Academy, like you did with the Police Academy, and then worked for the FBI as a special agent in Chicago, Honolulu, and then Jacksonville, Florida, where I retired.
What was the inspiration for FBI?
I guess when I was a kid, it was all the wrong reasons, right? I thought I'd be spending a lot of time jumping off moving trains and stuff like in the movies and TV. And it was a rewarding career, as any law enforcement career is, but for very different reasons. And I liked the more kind of matching wits with smart con men type of thing. I wasn't a tactician or a SWAT operator like the guys you hung out with.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, you did some operations, so you were doing some field work.
Yeah. I mean,
you did some undercover stuff. I'm sure.
I was undercover. I did, carried a gun and a badge every day, wore bulletproof vests, arrested hundreds of people. But it's not like I was a special forces guy like our hostage rescue team, for example.
Yeah, at least not out in the public. I mean, it's probably some James Bond shit in the background. You never know. The CPA.
If you're looking for some big muscle to arrest the big guy, you probably do better than me.
You know what's funny is that when I was working in those capacities, and then later on, post law enforcement, I had some buddies that were like special forces, and you see like the Green Berets, the Navy SEALs that are doing stuff more clandestine work.
Yeah,
we'll say they don't look like big bodybuilder, burly guys. These guys are normal looking people.
A lot of these guys are cardio nuts. Like
they are cardio nuts. Yeah.
Like you talk, like I know a bunch of special forces guys, and they're all like kind of like tall, muscular, rangy dudes, guys who can like run 20 miles and just don't get tired.
Yeah, but they don't like, they normal clothes. They don't look all that impressive or scary.
Right.
They look like normal dudes. I'm like, no, these guys are so extremely capable. You don't understand.
Yeah.
It's the big scary muscular guys. Like they aren't as capable all the time.
Well, yeah. I mean, their functional fitness is very different than a bodybuilding stuff.
Well, they gas out. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So what's I just want to talk about your career a little bit, and then I want to get into what you're doing now.
Yeah.
And get into kind of what your idea is of, uncovering truth, investigations, and, what you do from a financial crime perspective. But one thing that I think a lot of people want to know, and we're not going to get into the weeds of politics when it comes to the FBI or anything like that.
Yeah.
What's your best take being outside of the FBI now?
Sure. Let me talk about that, because we're in a weird situation now with the FBI's perception, because when Biden was president, everyone thought that the FBI was a bunch of liberals running around, harassing right-wing people.
Well, there's a feeling that it was weaponized, right? Wasn't that
That's the
idea?
term that people were using.
Yeah.
And now that Kash Patel is director with Trump as president, everyone's convinced that the FBI are a bunch of right-wing thugs.
Yep.
What no one seems to take into account is that it's the exact same agents, right?
Yeah.
There's 12,000 FBI agents out there. And those 12,000 FBI agents, you know what they do every day? They get out there and they work cases. They work their asses off to keep the American public safe. And
same as police work.
Absolutely.
When it was like a defund the police thing, I'm like, you guys need the police. What are you talking about?
Right, exactly. So, again, I served under 5 different FBI directors and probably 5 or 6 different presidents, if I count them up. It never mattered a bit to me who the director was or who the president was. It had zero impact on my day-to-day job.
Truly.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Again, the director runs FBI headquarters, a big administrative kind of muscular, government agency, goes to Congress, asks for money, does all that.
Sure.
Sets the global priorities of the FBI.
More of like a bureaucratic position.
But the work itself is done in the 55 field offices. There are no investigations happening out of FBI headquarters. And so every day, agents like me who are field agents every single day, I went 26 years without a promotion because I wanted to work cases then and now. And so those people don't really care about politics. I'm not a voter. I don't care. I have no political party. I have no political affiliations. I've arrested Republican governors. I've arrested Democratic governors. I'm from Chicago. We bust everybody.
Yeah.
And so all the stuff about the FBI being political is just nonsense. There's no basis in reality for it.
So your statement that your job didn't really change when it came to a different FBI director, different president. So directives really don't change from that perspective.
No, I mean, again, from the agent on the street's perspective, he has a case that he needs to investigate.
Yeah.
Either that case has merit or that case doesn't. If the case has no merit, the agent's not going to waste his time or her time investigating.
So basically media spin like everything else.
It's media spin. There's an entire complex here in the U.S. that's making a lot of money making us hate each other, right?
True.
The right wing wants to hate the left wing, and it goes both ways. There's no one who's blameless in this thing. Yeah. I think the task for the American public is to shut that out. And to vote for your candidate of your choice, follow as much politics as you have a stomach for, but it shouldn't be your personality. It shouldn't be a preoccupation. Spend time with your family, do the right things, make friends, get in shape, do things like that. Those are the things that matter. Politics doesn't.
Well, I think people. That's such a powerful statement you just said. But I think people do take too much identity from politics, and they don't even think about like their moral standing, their value system.
It's tribalism, Tomo, right?
Sure.
In the old days, is like, are you a Catholic or are you a Protestant? Are you an Italian or are you an Irishman? That's how it was working in back in Ireland and in Chicago. What neighborhood do you come from? That was your tribe.
Yeah.
Now it seems that we've cut ourselves up into 2 big tribes, left wing and right wing. I think it's a mistake, though. We're worse off for it as a nation, and people are less happy rather than more happy.
Well, and the political ideals, it used to be pendulum like this. Right?
Yeah.
Used to swing just a little bit. A little bit left, a little bit right. Mostly centrist made sense.
Yeah.
Now it's like, fuck it. It's going wacky.
Well, I think there is a sizable middle politically in the U.S. who are just disengaged with politics. People like me who just don't really have a dog in the fight.
Yeah.
And so, but what happens in the downside of apathy of people like me who don't follow politics is that we're really kind of ceding the political process to the extremes on both sides.
Yeah.
And so I get it. I get those criticisms, but I don't think the answer is to join one of those sides and be like a strident left winger or a strident right winger. That's just not the answer to me.
People think I'm hard right wing because of the way that I vote. Okay. I'm public about the way that I vote.
Well, you're a business owner. There's economic advantages to voting the way you vote.
And that's how I tell everybody.
Yeah.
I said realistically, I'm very financially, I'm very fiscally conservative. And I want small. I'm actually more libertarian probably, but
yeah, sure.
I want small government. I want low taxes. kind of like, leave me the fuck alone. Don't.
I get it.
That's what I want, you know?
Right, but you're not looking to march gay people into a furnace or anything.
No, I don't give a fuck.
But isn't that crazy though? The way that like, right, so if you know how someone feels about tax policy, you're supposed to know how they feel about abortion, women's rights, gay rights. You know, it's sort of like we're compartmentalizing ourselves in things that have no relation to one another, and that's a mistake.
I had people that I was actual like friends with, people that are like almost related. Like we're talking like, you know, people that are related to my mom's fiance, and they're demonizing me because I was open about voting for Trump.
Sure.
They're like, you must hate us. You hate gay rights. I'm like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't actually care at all. I understand that you do.
Right.
But I'm also not going to ruin my business, ruin my taxes, ruin the way that that's what's important for me and my family because you believe a certain way. You vote your way, I vote my way. That's how politics and the government works.
Right.
That's how
both
voting
you and I have
works.
very similar social media presence. You know, we're out there in the world, open for criticism. And people get so angry at me when I say that, listen, I'm really not I don't have really a fight in a lot of these things. You know, Israel, Palestine, you know, the trans issue. It's not my issue. It's not something that exercises me. It's not something that motivates me to like take a stand. And the fact that I'm sitting it out seems to bother people on both sides.
I think you know why that is. You're an intelligent guy.
I know.
You don't think so? So I kind of, this is how I figure it out. And like for you guys watching, like think about it. When they see you sitting out, they automatically associate with you. Well, if you're not part of us, you're against us.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck?
You look at my comments every day. I get called a right-wing maniac and a
your
left-wing
social media is
maniac.
great, by the way. I consumed it all earlier.
Well, thanks. That's nice.
I was plowing through your social media. And if you guys didn't follow him, what's your
at Simon Investigations on all platforms.
So at Simon Investigations on Instagram, follow him. He's got 300,000 followers. Actually, pretty well followed. But you know, I don't think people expect that from an ex-FBI agent.
I don't know if they expect me to be hardcore left-wing or hardcore right-wing, but they're constantly disappointed in me for not being one or the other.
Sure. Well, I mean, depending on what the media is saying about ex-FBI or FBI.
Well, yeah,
that's probably what it is.
Well, you know, as long as the FBI continues to do what they do, working cases and keeping Americans safe, I'll always advocate for them. Yeah. But it's also not my fight anymore, right? I'm retired. It's like,
you're a entrepreneur, you're a solopreneur, you're running your own business, successful one.
Right. Well, like if I worked at McDonald's in high school, I'm not representing McDonald's after I no longer work there. You know, if you don't like your Big Mac, it's not my problem.
The Big Macs back in the day were better. They were, I swear to God. Do you remember growing up having a Big Mac? Maybe.
Yeah, sure, I guess. I mean,
they're trash now.
Really?
They're poison. Well, they changed all the ingredients and everything like that.
Yeah. But it's all poison,
yeah,
right?
I'll digress.
Yeah.
I missed the Big Mac from when I was like 10, 15 years old, and even like, when I was like earlier
We're
than that.
grown up, Tomo. We ought not to be eating Big Macs.
No. But back in the day, it was actual beef.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now it's
they were using beef tallow and stuff for their fries back in the day. It was legit.
Yeah.
Now it's all
right.
poison seed oils. What this question came from Jade and my team here.
Yeah.
The most impactful and memorable case that you had from the FBI, if you can talk about it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I worked in the criminal arena, so all my cases eventually came out in court, so I don't have some deep, dark secret I can't really talk about. I think two cases come to mind. First of all, I was a high volume agent. I worked many cases.
Yeah, you were a worker.
But they weren't like the giant case that takes like 5-10 years. You know, like you look at these guys who like took down the Chicago mob. They worked the same case for like almost the entirety of their career.
That's different, yeah.
Right. I was like a pie eating contest, right? I'd work a fraud case, then I would finish that and they would stick another pie in front of my face. Well, continue eating, Tom. And because I worked fast.
That's good.
And so picking out my favorite case is like picking out my favorite kid. You love them all. But I think the cases that mattered the most to me, I began in bank fraud.
Okay.
So my victims were bankers or banks. And that was rewarding. You ought not to be stealing from banks. But there was no victim who was crying on my shoulder when Chase Manhattan Bank lost $1 million in this scam or that scam.
As they made $1 million off our money yesterday.
Exactly. Later, I moved into Ponzi schemes and other types of like investment frauds. And so then I had actual human victims, many of whom were not wealthy people who were getting ripped off. And that meant the world to me to be able to help them.
Yeah, like retirement funds being basically like wiped out.
Or just, or someone goes to a little old lady and tells her to get a second mortgage on her house because they can put her in an investment that will pay 6% a week or something. She doesn't know about finance and business like you and I do. And she fell for it and now she's ruined. And so those cases always meant the world to me. I think the case though that meant the most to me because I became very victim focused at that point. How can I be a champion for these victims? I had a case in 2019. where a woman and her boyfriend went on a cruise ship out of Florida down to the Bahamas. And on the first night of the cruise, the woman went off the balcony of her cabin and fell to her death. And there was indication that she may have been thrown or pushed by her boyfriend. And so we had some physical evidence, not a lot. There was, the neighbors on either side of the cabin said that there was a fight breaking out. And
not looking good.
And so it was good, but not enough, nothing you want to hang a case on. And there was physical evidence. Her eyes had a petechia in them, a burst blood vessel in the eyes. When they got, when they found her, which indicates that someone may have been choked or strangled.
Asphyxiation.
But she's also kind of bouncing off like the railings and and stuff on her way down. So there was a lot of blunt force trauma to her that ultimately caused her death, and then landing on the deck, many decks below. But
not a fun sight.
But I was brought in to interrogate the guy, and I interrogated him and got him to confess to basically, getting in a fight with her, grabbing her by her throat, and throwing her over the balcony. And now he's in prison.
Straight up confess it.
Well, he confessed, and the case would not have been made but for that confession. And I'm proud of that, not because I'm a big shot, but because I was able to do that for the victim's family, who I got to know in the process.
It's pretty impressive, though. I mean, getting, I did interview interrogation. I did FBI interview interrogation when I was in law enforcement. But getting somebody to just admit something that they know is going to put them in prison forever.
It's amazing, though, isn't it? It's an interesting process. Whether it's a bank embezzler or a murderer or a child molester, that ability to kind of get into their heads and talk to them about why they did what they did and try to understand, and practice empathy, which is different than sympathy, as you know, and kind of go through that process. It's so universal to people, and understand that no one is the villain in their own life story. And if you can get into their mindset and say, this isn't a bad person, or they certainly don't see themselves as a bad person, but they saw themselves as reacting to the circumstances of their lives at the time, and then make that the focus of the conversation, and you can get down to the truth that way.
Yeah, so not looking at them as a bad person, but a person like everybody else did a bad deed almost.
Here's a thought experiment for you, Tomo. You're driving to work.
Yep.
A guy cuts you off in traffic, and you're furious at him. You lay on your horn. You give him the finger. You think that in your heart that is the worst guy in the world. You have that guy figured out up, down, left, right, and sideways.
Yep.
Next day, you're going to work. You're running late. You got a big podcast. Got a fancy guest coming. You're running late. You cut someone off in traffic, and you're just trying to get to work. Someone honks at you. You give them the finger and move on.
Yep.
What's the difference? Are you a bad person? Are you a terrible person? Are you the worst person in the world? No, you were reacting to the circumstances of your life at the time. And that's the way criminals see themselves is, unless they're a lifelong criminal or serial killer or something like that.
Psychopath.
But even those people, I think, have some rationalization that they tell themselves as to why they did this bad thing. And if you could figure out what that rationalization is, you can get the confession.
Now, from your perspective, from the outside looking in, are you doing that as a manipulation
Absolutely.
tactic?
100%.
Okay, so...
But I do think practicing empathy in your day-to-day life and trying to see the world through other people's eyes makes you a better person, a better husband, a better father, better everything.
100% agree.
But it also is a fantastic manipulation tactic, right? Again, you could put the worst person in the world in the interrogation room with me. I'm not going to have sympathy for them, but I'm going to feign compassion and try to understand how they see the world as a tactical move. Absolutely.
Now, from a tactical move, have you ever actually then turned that into an actual, have you ever actually felt and been like, oh shit, this is a good person who's made a bad mistake? I'm sure that happened as well.
Let's take this cruise ship guy. I mean, his story was that he had, he and his girl bought the all-you-can-drink package. They were they were both wasted that night on the first night of the cruise. They're at the disco. She's dancing with another guy. He loses his mind. They go. The fight begins in the disco. They go back up to the cabin. The fight continues. And then he's a guy one of these guys that and I know that should never ever drink. Because when he drinks, he gets a
fit of rage. Yeah.
All right, we all got that friend who's a cool guy, but when he starts drinking, he starts taking swings at you and stuff. Yep. That's who this guy was.
That's where this scar came from, actually.
During my interrogation, he was a perfectly pleasant guy. Felt terrible about what happened and owned up to it. Do I feel sorry for him? Do I like him? No. But is it my job to sit in judgment of him? No. It was my job to find out what happened and get that to the prosecutor so they can get him into the system.
That's your job. Yeah. That's your job. Awesome. Any other cases stick out?
After the 9/11 attacks in 2001, I was moved from a fraud squad to a counterterrorism squad. Something
like almost everybody else.
Yeah, it was happening. Something I knew nothing about. But mine was a very specific squad focused on a couple of Islamic charities based in Chicago that were taking money from good Muslim people, ostensibly for the poor and needy of the Muslim world, but they were funneling that money to fighting groups, including Al-Qaeda. And so we were able to shut those charities down, seize their money, put some of the people in, some of the charity leaders in prison, deport others, and basically stop the flow of money to Al-Qaeda and Islamic terrorist groups coming from these charities in Chicago. And there's a ton of money, these very successful charities. So
and preying on good Muslim people.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think the Muslims were very upset when we grabbed their charity and took the money and shut them down. But I think what they didn't understand is that this was fundamentally a fraud case, right? They're out there lying to the Muslims who pay a tithe called a zakat, and so they were kind of, other than the societal victims of terrorism, the Muslims, who were donating money were also being ripped off because this was not going where they thought it was going.
I mean, good Muslims understood the problem there.
I get it. We were just criticizing the media, so I'm still
media's.
I know, but
you know how that is.
You go into this thing trying to be a good guy, and then you read editorial after editorial. You watch the news with people talking about how we're the jackbooted thugs shutting down Islamic charities, trying to make Muslim kids starve to death. Yeah, and nothing could have been further from the truth.
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, that's media's job, as we talked about earlier, right?
Yeah.
Any particular high stress moments or personal mindset development that happened during these cases during your career? I mean, you had such a long career. I mean, and thank you for your service, by the way. That's amazing. You helped a lot of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a good run. I was paid every 2 weeks, so that's all the things I did.
Paid every 2 weeks. Well, I mean, we had ex-FBI, ex-law enforcement. He's ex-firefighter.
Oh, well, thank you for your service.
A lot of these people that I surround myself with were all ex-first responders.
Well, thank you for your service, too.
Thank you. Appreciate
How many
that.
years did you a cop?
12.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so I did 5 up in Cleveland, Ohio, and then 7 in Clearwater, Florida.
Oh, right on. That's good. Yeah.
And left right before COVID, thank goodness.
Yeah. As far as personal mindset changes, I think I probably walked into the FBI and law enforcement in general believing kind of the Marvel Comics version of good guys and bad guys.
Sure.
And over time, I quickly learned that the people who I thought were bad guys, they were certainly doing bad things, ripping people off, stealing from the bank, dealing drugs, whatever it is. But they also went home to their families at night, and maybe they coached their kids' little league team, and they sort of developed my kind of global theory of trying to see the world through people's eyes of empathy, and that these people don't see themselves as monsters, and they're not bad guys all the time. And I think if you go into that approach, it makes you a better interviewer and a better interrogator because you can approach things from a less judgmental point of view.
Well, I think the opposite side of that idea that you just said is like looking at everything as like everything is horrifying and everybody's the bad guy.
Right. Not every cop and FBI agent is a lily white hero either.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And which, a lot of police officers in general, they start thinking like that.
Yeah.
They demonize the public.
Oh, yeah. Well,
you know what I mean?
I mean, I feel bad for street cops because they see the public at their worst for 40 hours a week, and it's got to grind you down.
Well, I did it. I did it for a lot of years.
That's a good thing. See, FBI doesn't have a patrol function, right?
Yeah,
so we're dealing with an investigation is very different than kind of dealing with people in like high stress patrol situations like you had to. I never had to deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is like you see these people in their worst positions, domestic violence and DUIs, fighting you, doing all kinds of stuff. You see them out at the store, you see them at the mall.
Right.
They're just normal people.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
You saw them at the absolute worst scenario.
Right, you're injecting yourself to the eye of the storm every day, all day.
Yes.
It's got to grind you down.
Oh, it sucks. It sucks. I mean, it got hard. It got depressing at times for me personally.
Yeah.
I figured out how to deal with that, and I left at the right time.
Right.
So your transition from federal agency to private investigator, obviously you told us how seamless that was. You're doing the same thing mostly.
Yeah.
What was the most surprising thing about like coming and working for the private sector?
The most surprising thing was that I couldn't just hang out my shingle and then like have people throw a bunch of cash at me. The investigations on the private investigative side are not as kind of detailed and in-depth and difficult as a FBI investigation where you need to prove a case from beginning to end beyond a reasonable doubt.
Okay.
And all that. The cases end up being a little simpler, but getting the clients in the door is the big trick.
Got it.
And man, oh man, So at my going away party at the FBI, I'm at the party. I have to take a call. It's an attorney that I knew from the FBI, in my FBI days back in Hawaii. They wanted to throw a ton of money at me to be an expert witness in a fraud case they had in Hawaii. I said yes. I said, man, I'm open. I gave him my hourly rate. I said, I'm open for business. And I thought this is going to be it. Like a guy who's like a guy whose first dates with a supermodel. Like it's just a lifelong series of supermodels in the future. I worked that client. It was great. And then it dried up. Then the phone wasn't ringing, and it was a real like, is it me? Is it what's going on? And so I started doing dumb things like paying for Google ads and paying for ads on Nextdoor, and just throwing a ton of money away that wasn't bringing the kind of clients I was looking for in the door. I was like writing letters and sending my business cards to companies, CFOs. If you ever have an embezzlement, let me know. But you can't. It's hard. Hey man, want to buy an investigation's a bad approach.
Yeah.
Then I realized, Tomo, I had this asset that I was not utilizing, and that asset was 30 years of stories of conducting investigations and a knowledge of how the FBI work and FBI investigations. So I set up a TikTok account and an Instagram account and a YouTube account and a LinkedIn and Facebook. And every day I started making a little 1 to 3 minute crime story, often from my career, but also just kind of telling the stories of investigations that interest me and kind of giving the inside scoop. And over time it grew and grew and grew, and it's kind of taken off beyond my wildest dreams, which feeds my ego. But more importantly, it brings me a steady stream of clients who follow my feed on any number of the social media platforms. And now it's like an all-you-can-eat buffet. Now I truly have more work than I have hours to do it.
That's amazing, man.
It's been great.
I mean, the power of social media. Social media is media.
It is.
And people think, and there's different avenues for different companies, different industries, everything like that. I'm super happy that you found your avenue through social media, because I think it's super important. But, other people think like, all right, need to pay for Google ads, need to pay for a certain amount for SEO, need to pay for a certain amount for social media ads. I'm like, that doesn't work. Like your industry, like what you do. Yeah. You can push all the ads that you want. You're going to push them to somebody like me who just may not need it. And I don't ever think about it again. I do the same thing with the medical clinic, where I do mostly SEO. So I want to be found on search, because for my medical clinic side, these people, I can't just push this onto somebody. It's a big decision to get your hormones checked, get on hormone therapy, want to have an optimal lifestyle, look at all these health markers. If that just gets randomly pushed to a bunch of different people, 99% of them don't care. Right. Or are not prepared to look at that. Yeah. That's but if someone's looking for this, I just want to be the first one that pops up on Google.
Yeah. You got a different angle, and I think that's smart with what you're doing. What I'm doing is probably more akin to being a realtor, right? No one needs a realtor until you need a realtor. Sure. And so all you can really do is let the public know that you're open for business as a private investigator. And then if that need arises, they're like, hey, maybe that guy that I watch a video every morning of him telling like wacky crime stories, maybe he'd be the guy. He seems like he knows what he's doing.
Oh, you're my guy forever now. It's I'm your guy for like if I need anything investigative financial side, or if I need something deep dive, something like that, you're mine. You're my guy.
Well, I appreciate that.
Because now I know your content. Now we got to speak in person. This is what's up. This is what I love.
All right, cool.
So the social media side is really what blew you up.
Yeah, without question. I mean, again, beyond the, I have a couple sponsors who, of products that I believe in that pay for me, and that's a nice little residual income. But the idea that even on like TikTok, there's attorneys watching TikTok. There's CFOs of companies. There's business owners. Yeah. And every now and then they have a problem. And I'm the first guy they contact, I hope. And and I'm able to talk to them. I do free consultations. I'm not looking to, if I can't help them, I'll let them know that as well. But I like the idea of my phone kind of continuously ringing with people who might need my help. And I'm always going to make time for a referral from somebody who watches me on social media as well. So, they may have a brother-in-law who needs a private investigator and they call me. And I work in all 50 states, so I'm always on the road. I like that too.
That's cool. What's your favorite kind of case now in the private investigative side?
My favorite kind of case would be an embezzlement. A company has a small company has someone inside them who's been running an embezzlement scam for big dollar amounts. And they want me to investigate it, understand how they did it, help them out generating the internal controls to make sure it's not going to happen again. And also to confront the bad guy who stole the money and get them to confess and see if they're willing to pay back the money or do a payment plan to pay back the money.
Oh, wow. So you give them a chance out.
Oh, yeah. And if they decide to not take that chance out or tell me to pound sand, I'm happy to package that up and bring it to my former colleagues at the FBI
Holy shit, that's savage, bro.
for whatever investigation they deem appropriate.
Which is obviously going to just be packaged perfectly because you literally did this.
And again, it's a win-win, right? The client likes it, me kind of being their lobbyist with the FBI.
Yeah.
But you know who really likes it is the FBI. Because
Well,
by
you
the
just gave
time
him a fucking present with a bow on it.
I loved it, man. When I was an FBI agent and an attorney or a private investigator, forensic accountant brought a case to me that's all done basically. And, and all I need to do is kind of follow their footsteps. That case got moved to the front burner.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's a done deal.
Yeah, and it's, you know, and it gives me an opportunity to see my friends at the FBI that I was with for 26 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's a win-win. The
That's
clients
awesome.
love it. The FBI loves it. Everyone loves it except for the bad guy.
Let's talk about kind of like a little bit of psychology behind the criminality that you were dealing with. Psychology of criminals, psychology of lies, psychology of, you know, what's going on there. Give me your kind of, give me your top line ideas of what that means.
Sure. Well, I guess, and I think when you're looking at a fraud case, there's something called the fraud triangle. Okay. And this isn't some academic made this up, but it made sense to me, and I was keeping the back of my head. First is the opportunity. Like there's some failing in the internal controls of a company. Stick with embezzlements. I think that's the easiest way to do it. Sure. The internal controls of the company should be in place to make an embezzlement really hard if you're an employee.
Yes.
Basic steps like segregating access to from the money in the company to the accounting records. You need at least two different people to segregate those access, or else, you know, and the person, if they can write your checks and do the entry in the accounting system, they can cover up anything.
Yeah. Thankfully, my CPA and my CFO is not my CPA, my CFO is my mother.
Yeah, well, good.
She ain't gonna steal from me, so we're good.
Well, there you go. You're in good hands. It sounds like you're in good hands. Okay, so that's like one leg of the triangle.
Yeah.
The other is some kind of like pressure or financial need.
Got it.
Most employees of a company aren't going to steal money because they want to like buy scratch-off lottery tickets. You know, there's some financial stress. Maybe it's a addiction. Maybe it's a gambling problem. Maybe it's a boyfriend or girlfriend. Maybe it's just credit card debt. You know, I had arrested someone who had a shopping addiction. It's a thing.
Shopping addiction.
Yeah.
Male or female?
Female. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, you saw it coming. But the third leg of the triangle is the rationalization. And we talked about that a bit early. What is it that they're telling themselves that allow them to continue stealing money and still be able to look in the mirror? And 9 times out of 10 for embezzlers, they're borrowing the money, and when their ship comes in, they're going to put that money back.
Got it.
And if I could figure out that rationalization, I can get the confession every time because I unlock it. And I sit down with you. If you're the embezzler, I say, listen, I know what you did. You know, but I don't think you're a bad person. You know, I've arrested the worst of the worst out there, and I don't think that's you. I think what you were doing, Tomo, was borrowing the money, and you were going to pay it back down the road, but then everything kind of fell apart.
And they're like, yeah.
And they're like, you're like, you got it.
That's what I wanted.
Right. But again, all I care about is that they admit to the conduct of having stolen that money in the first place.
Yeah.
And so I think those 3 things are always good to keep in mind in any embezzlement case, and those are my favorite kind of cases.
It'd be really hard to argue with you as a girlfriend or a wife. Could you imagine him like fucking picking you apart? He'd be like, listen, I'm going to convince you this is your fault.
Well, I got 2 kids, and so getting the truth out of them as a child.
That's got to be the hardest one.
I would always remind them also that it's illegal to lie to an FBI agent. So.
That's so funny. I'm going to use that. I'm going to have to use that with my daughter when she gets a little bit older.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm an ex-police officer. It's illegal to lie to me.
How old your kid?
A year and a half.
Oh, cool.
Tiny.
Little
Tiny
man. That's
thing.
great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Fun time.
It is great.
She's babbling, running around everywhere. Yeah.
Enjoy every year of it, man. My kids are grown now. I miss them.
Yeah. Are they over the college age?
Yeah. Well, my son's at Florida State.
Okay.
And,
congrats.
And
awesome.
so we get to see him in the summers. My daughter is a nurse in Denver.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So. That's great, man. Good for you. So gut instincts when it comes to like, because it seems like you were very tactical in your approach.
Yeah.
Did you use gut instincts a lot in the FBI?
Yeah, you do. You ever read Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers?
Ooh, I haven't read that one.
Or Blink?
Gary, we need to write that one down. That book.
I think Blink is his book, nonfiction. He's a journalist for the New Yorker, Malcolm Gladwell. And his book Blink had a lot of impact on me because it talked about how experts in the field have that gut instinct that like, I don't know anything about painting, right? So I couldn't tell the difference between a counterfeit Rembrandt and a real Rembrandt.
Sure.
But people who have done their time and know that stuff and it's their expertise, they could literally just look at it from the brush strokes and say,
They know the brush stroke and they can
know
say,
that,
no,
yeah.
his was longer, his was shorter, his is like this, he used this kind of brush.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it ties into the concept that I'm sure you've heard about, the idea of 10,000 hours. That if you do something for 10,000 hours, and that really came from Malcolm Gladwell's book Outliers.
Got it.
So, the Beatles played a nudie bar in Hamburg for like 10,000 hours to learn, like playing Chuck Berry covers and stuff before they even started writing their own music, before they went to Liverpool to form a band to making original music. And Gladwell points out that 10,000 hours of kind of building the fundamentals of music and understanding how rock and roll works allowed them to kind of become the best rock band ever, arguably. So I think that over time, after my 10,000 hours of like interview and interrogation, you get a really good instinct for when someone's full of shit.
Got it.
And I'm not saying I'm a human lie detector. I'm not saying I can't be fooled.
You might be a little bit though.
I'm not saying I win the poker game every single time, but when someone's telling me a story, quite often my spider senses are just hopping. And it's not that I'm psychic. It's just that I think I've done my 10,000 hours of being lied to.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 10,000 hour concept is really good for people that haven't heard about it. So I may have read the book. Maybe I just don't remember.
Well, it became a bit of a kind of meme at that time when the book was super popular, that people were talking about 10,000 hours. Sorry, Tomo.
No, please.
Became a bit of a meme at the time when the book was on the bestseller list of the idea of 10,000 hours, and people were bringing it up in TED Talks and management seminars and things like that. And I think there's something to it. Whether it's 10,000 or 12,000 or 8,000, I think that's more metaphorical. But the idea that you develop an expertise after doing the same thing again and again and again, that develops that kind of gut instinct.
Well, they broke it down. I think people were talking about it from like a reading perspective. So if you read what was it, one book a month on a topic that you're interested in, that you want to be an expert in, in 24 months, you will have done this many hours of reading on the topic, and you will be one of the top foremost experts in the topic. Same idea.
Yeah, that's the idea, right?
You know what I mean?
You put in your time.
You put in your time, whether it's learning or it's through practice.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The bad thing is when you're a cop or an FBI agent, the public has watched enough television and movies that they're all experts, right? They're all going to tell you how to do your job better than you.
Sure, of course. So on the psychology of criminals and lying and everything like that, we're going to talk kind of on the human nature side and what people experience every single day. Most people are not dealing with criminals. Yeah. Like us.
Right.
Like we were in for years. You were for longer than I was, much longer than I was. What are some red flags that people ignore every single day in everyday life? And when it comes to the psychology of criminality and lies, and why do people automatically believe things that would maybe be so obvious to somebody like you or me?
I think that there's a lot of... what's the term I'm looking for? I think there's a lot of confirmation bias that goes on, where somebody wants to believe something so bad that you can make money sitting at home doing nothing through drop shipping or some nonsense scammy type thing you read about on the internet, or some work from home opportunity that just seems too good to be true.
Sure.
And so the bad guys will play into that confirmation bias.
Got it.
I do a lot of romance scam cases, and so
explain this.
Okay, so
Romance scam.
A woman, sometimes a guy, but more often a woman, meets the man of her dreams on the internet. Sometimes she meets him on Words with Friends. Sometimes it's a senior citizen dating site. Sometimes it's Facebook. And they have this fantastic rapport. They're texting each other. They're sharing pictures. He's unspeakably handsome. She maybe not. And he starts talking about how beautiful her eyes are. They always go there because everyone thinks their eyes are the most beautiful eyes in the world. No matter how awful you look, your eyes are wonderful.
At least the eyes are nice.
Yeah, exactly. And it takes no time at all before the person on the other end of this phone has made this woman fall in love with them. And then
the Tinder swindler type thing?
That type of thing. But they're using fake identities, fake photos. And so there's always some reason why the guy is not going to have a video chat with them. I'm working in a DOD facility overseas. I'm in the military. I'm working on a top secret mission, or I'm working on an oil rig.
Yeah.
The Wi-Fi is not good enough here.
I'm James Bond.
Yeah, Wi-Fi. Yeah, the Wi-Fi is not good enough here for a video call.
Yeah.
And you're only 3 or 4 days into it before she is sending him money so they can be together, or that he's in the hospital and I just need you to cover this $12,000 medical bill because my account got locked up by the IRS. We're working that out right now. And so, again, that confirmation bias that people have, these are otherwise intelligent people who don't make stupid decisions in any other aspect of their lives, but they're lonely, and loneliness is a powerful tool. And when someone comes in to kind of fill that void in their life, they fall for it. And so I think that once you understand how confirmation bias works for anybody, for somebody who's looking for a good investment or a cheap mortgage loan or any business opportunity that may not make a whole lot of economic sense, but it's exactly what, if they were blowing out their birthday candles, would wish for, then they need to take a closer look at that and examine that closer.
Yeah. I mean, there are amazing opportunities to do things, to make money, but if you think sitting on your ass, you're going to do anything, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's, if, now investing, people thought the same thing about like cryptocurrency, right? People that were talking about, I wish I was listening about Bitcoin in, what was it, 2020, 2018? Fuck.
Well, live and learn.
I wish, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But to me, it was like, this is stupid. This doesn't make sense. A lot of people were like, this seems like a good opportunity and this makes sense. Do your research.
I maintain it's still stupid and doesn't make sense. And what we're talking about here is a giant pump and dump Ponzi scheme, but that's a different story for a different day.
Yeah. I mean, like people are bought into the cryptocurrency industry and some people are not.
I think if we were using it as a currency, it might make sense, but it's not. No one's using crypto as a currency. They're using it as a speculative investment.
They are in Dubai.
No, they're not. I work in Dubai. They're
No?
not.
No?
Trust me. I worked in Dubai for 3 years.
Okay.
No one is buying stuff with cryptocurrency there. Maybe you can buy a car.
You buy a car or like I think you can buy an apartment.
From certain places, maybe they'll take it. But you go to the Dubai Mall, where I've spent a ton of time, and go from door to door to door trying to buy a shirt or a pair of shoes or a suit.
It's not implemented.
It's not a currency.
Yeah. Gotcha. So it's storage value.
It could be a store of value, but I'm not buying that either, honestly.
Yeah, gotcha.
I am a crypto skeptic, and I
like it.
Yeah, I think it's garbage.
Listen, I mean, whether you're right or wrong, I think it will be interesting to see what happens over the years.
I agree. I agree. And listen, and I'm not even saying crypto is going to crash and go down to zero. In a just and fair world, it would, because the stuff's worthless. But right now, the SEC made a terrible decision to allow electronically traded funds holding crypto. And so that's going to provide enough liquidity to prop up Bitcoin and the rest of this garbage for decades.
So what do you think about, so then I have a question. We're going to get into the weeds here on finances and currency.
Yeah, I'm down.
So like, what do you think about money in general? Because like when we look at the US dollar, what's it backed by?
It's backed by nothing. The full faith and credit of the U.S. government, right? It's backed by armies and Marines. But here's the difference.
Sure.
People are using it as a currency.
Sure.
Right? I'm not saying that cryptocurrency couldn't work. I'm saying it won't work because people are hesitant to change. Right?
Got it. So you're saying it could work feasibly if it's being utilized.
Sure.
Got it.
No. I have no problem with the idea of we all collectively,
societally or whatever
8 billion people on planet Earth decide to set aside their fiat currencies and start using Bitcoin to pay for their dry cleaning.
Yeah.
But here's what I'm skeptical of. People are hesitant to change.
Yeah.
And people have shown they are not interested in paying for shit with a Bitcoin out of a Bitcoin wallet with imaginary money, right? There's a small segment of society who will buy a Tesla doing that, or will enter into some sort of trading arrangement with somebody. But that's such a small percentage of the transactions out there. There are countries out there, El Salvador, in the news right now for other reasons, but El Salvador as a nation decided that we're going to adopt Bitcoin and make it our currency. Everyone get your Bitcoin wallets out. That's going to be our national currency. No one bought into it. You couldn't go to a store in San Salvador and have anyone buy anything.
It didn't work at all.
It was a disaster.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a disaster anywhere that they try to make this happen because people are hesitant to change.
What
Is
about
it a good idea? Is it a fun white paper? Yeah. It's never going to work.
Okay. Interesting.
It will always be a speculative investment. If you look at how it's going up and down, it's following the S&P 500.
Well, it's following the economy.
Well, the stock market.
Yeah, the stock market.
Yeah,
and
so, but again, overlay the Bitcoin's performance for the past 5 years with the S&P 500s, and you're going to see the exact same graphs up and down. Cool. It's a speculative, unregistered security.
So modern crime,
and it's also the currency of fraud.
It's very much used for fraud.
It's all,
which everybody knows. Everybody in the cryptocurrency industry. I have several people and several very close people that are involved in cryptocurrency, in business and cryptocurrency. they're not trying to scam anybody. They're trying to do legitimate business, right? But the amount of scams, the amount of illegal activity going through cryptocurrency, of course, we all know.
Why wouldn't you? You can't be recalled after it leaves.
It's not really traceable. Although
you can trace it to a wallet, but you don't know who's behind that wallet.
Yeah. Well, there was just a theft recently. Gary, do you remember we posted that? Was it like 40 million or 400 million or something?
Yeah,
that was stolen.
Yeah, I think that was done through what do you call it when you're talking to somebody, human engineering or whatever that term is.
Yeah, but 400 fucking million.
It's amazing, and that money, if it's not in a U.S. crypto wallet, is gone forever.
It's gone.
Right.
But I mean, could you imagine losing hundreds of millions of dollars that you thought was safe in a cryptocurrency?
In pretend digital money.
Holy fuck.
Yeah. Buyer beware.
Yeah, man.
I work a lot of crypto cases now of people who got ripped off. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of rip-offs going on.
It's all, I mean, again, the FBI, I think 50% of all their financial crime complaints right now are people who lost their money in cryptocurrency.
Well, what was Sam Bankman-Fried? What was that case? What's his name?
What's the name of that company, that goofy company that he had?
He was out of Puerto Rico. He was weird.
Yeah.
Dude was strange.
Yeah.
And like Tom Brady even lost like $100 million.
Yeah. I mean, exactly.
Yeah. So like modern crime, what are the biggest crimes outside of crypto, which we know the crimes are happening prevalently? What are the biggest crimes people don't realize are happening today in finances and in like fraud and technology? I mean, because I get like a text message there's probably 4 text messages on my phone right now talking about like to pay my tolls. And it's from like some Gmail address.
Those are that's hot now.
Or someone called a staff member at my company, the clinic right downstairs, right over there.
Yeah.
And they said your power's gonna be turned off in the next 30 minutes if you don't pay us. Give us a send. I think it was Zelle. And I think it was a manager fell for it.
Oh man.
I'm like, guys, it was $300.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I think the hot thing that's happening now is business email compromises. Some employee of your company clicks on the wrong link and ends up giving a bad guy somewhere else in the world access to their email on accident. Okay. Now, the bad guy's not going to do anything with that email other than go through it and identify who your customers are and identify who your vendors are. And then at some point, they're going to ask that customer to, hey, listen, I know you have this therapy going on. You know, we can give you 10% off if you wire your money to this bank account here. You know, we'll
instead of using credit card,
we'll cover you for the next year if you do that. But that wire transfer is going to somewhere in the bad guy's account. They think that Tomo ripped them off, right? And then we need to kind of reverse engineer it and realize that person who got ripped off,
you probably lost a customer there.
Yeah, you lost a customer, right? And you have bad, is not
you're gonna get a bad Google review.
Not happy with you because of your poor internet security. And so those business email compromises are a real problem right now, and I don't see it abating anytime soon.
Yeah, and the fraud on social media is pretty big right now too.
Yeah, I mean I just got a call. I got a call yesterday from Colombia, the country, and a guy saying, "Hey, are you a private investigator?" I said, "Yeah." And they go, "You work cases internationally?" I said, "Yeah, sure." And he said, and he goes, "Did you just solicit Bitcoin from this woman in Colombia to work an investigation?" I said, "No, I don't take payment in Bitcoin. I'm kind of a very vocal anti-Bitcoin dude." And he goes, "Well, are you Simon Worldwide Investigations on Facebook?" I said, "Yeah." And so we start, and I go, let's hop over to WhatsApp, and I want you to text me what you're seeing. Someone has created an entire fake profile for me on Facebook where they're reprinting my videos. I'm Simon Worldwide Investigations. This guy was Simon Worldwide Investigation.
Are you verified so that they can't do that? Because I think Facebook goes against that, don't they?
Oh, I'm verified, but
it still's on there.
Wait, again, they're using a slight variation of my name, right? See, I could protest, and eventually Facebook will rip it down.
Sure,
and it's frustrating because that guy's getting more views on his Facebook videos than I am. So yeah, exactly.
He's putting money behind it,
right? But again, imposters on Facebook and Instagram and all these other places are a real big deal, and cause a lot of damage. And
there was a bunch of fake profiles on Instagram of me at one point.
Oh yeah, I mean, you look up Simon Investigations on TikTok. I think there's 50 of me on there, and I keep reporting it to TikTok. They don't care.
No.
Yeah. I get a call from a woman the other day. I'm sorry if I can.
No, please.
She goes, "Hey, listen, here's a dumb question. Are you a private investigator?" I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Have I been communicating with you on Telegram?" I said, "No, I'm not on Telegram." She goes, "Oh my God, I'm so glad I called you." I go, "What happened?" She goes, "Well, I was in this long-term romantic relationship with Keanu Reeves. I met him online." And I go, "Stop. Do you believe that?" She goes, "No, I now know it's a fraud.
Can't fucking be real.
I now know it's a fraud." Oh, there's thousands of women in the U.S. who have these long-term loving relationships with Keanu Reeves.
And they're texting
each other. And
with John Wick. fuck?
Yeah, and he always says that the fake Keanu Reeves always tells them that he's having some tax problems and his account was frozen, and the women are always willing to send him money so they can be together, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so this woman finally figures out that the love of her life, who she's given over $100,000 to, is not Keanu Reeves. Then next thing you know, she gets a telegram message from former FBI special agent and private investigator Tom Simon with my photo there, indicating that he can recover the money that these bad guys.
Well, she has to wire him money.
Yeah, they wanted Bitcoin from her to recover her money, and then she was on the verge of hitting send, and then she took the time to Google me, and then she found my actual website, simoninvestigations.com, and called me, and I talked her down off the cliff and said that wasn't me, and it wasn't Keanu Reeves. And
guys,
so
Simon Investigations does not take cryptocurrency, number one. Number two, as FBI special investigator, can you just tell them that they're not dating Keanu Reeves? That'd be great. Just they're not.
I'm going to break it to you gently, ladies. You are not dating Keanu Reeves.
Fuck. Mic drop. I know. We shocked you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
Holy shit. That's crazy.
I don't know what it is about Keanu Reeves that he's always the kind of
he's a stud.
The dangle. I mean, he's a good looking guy.
Stud.
I think he seems like kind of like such a cool, down to earth guy that these 55-year-old divorced ladies can like feel that maybe he would be into me.
Well, did you ever see him? Did you ever see him like at he was at the mall, just like walking around, or he takes subway in New York.
He seems super down to earth. Yeah,
nobody even notices it's him.
Yeah,
because he's chill. He's not walking around private security.
I love the guy. I'm a huge fan, and,
awesome.
and he must feel. I'm sure he knows that these scams are out there. He must feel terrible.
He's got to feel terrible.
Yeah,
but I mean, at the same time, it's kind of like it's probably an ego boost.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean? Right. He's probably
every
like
60-year-old woman in America
wants
me.
Keanu Reeves.
They're willing to empty out their bank accounts for a shot at this guy. Yeah.
Everyone wants Keanu Reeves. Talking to himself in the mirror in third person.
I'm like an amusement park ride.
Holy shit. Give me some tips. And I really want to listen to this too. Give me some tips for individuals, but mostly for businesses, since you deal with a lot of financial crime, on how to protect themselves from fraud and things like this that you deal with all the time. What are some top protective? Give me like 3 to 5 of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked about segregation of duties.
Sure.
That's going to be the biggest heavy lift. Okay. The other thing you need to do is just have an employee code of conduct. You need to have open and honest conversation with your employees that there is a zero tolerance policy at your business for any kind of employee dishonesty.
Got it.
Having an employee assistance program available to your people if they develop an addiction or a gambling problem or need kind of debt relief or something like that. There are third-party companies out there who will provide an EAP for your employees. Let them know that. And then it's a matter of also if a problem does happen, the instinct for a lot of these companies is to fire the person, sweep it under the rug. I disagree with that. I think what you need is a public hanging. I think if you have an employee who is caught stealing anything, the only appropriate response is to prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law, whether that's with a local prosecution or an FBI prosecution. Because you may not even care what happens to them. Yeah. You want to send the message to the employees who remain there that this is not a company to steal from.
Yeah.
So I think you do those things, you're probably almost all the way there, and then it gets into specific industries. Clinics got to be super careful with painkillers, things like that. The other thing, I would tell people. It's funny, companies will move heaven and earth to protect their inventory and then leave their checkbooks in an unlocked drawer in the accounting department there. Most of these embezzlements are not from some very complex schemes. I see a lot of complex schemes,
sure,
but oftentimes it's just one of the accountants stealing a blank check, writing it to themselves or to someone they're paying the bills with, negotiating that check, and then covering it up in the accounting records. You need to have your blank check stock under lock and key, like it's the most important asset of your company.
It's your money.
It is.
Yeah. I mean,
but again, companies are very cavalier about the checkbook.
Wow. Man, IT stuff, obviously important.
Yeah.
I think internet, email, and that's probably is that the most prevalent? Do you think that the internet, the technology and internet, is that the most prevalent type of scams that you see in companies?
From outside frauds, perhaps, yeah.
But from internal frauds, it's shit like your checkbook.
Internal fraud, it's people writing checks themselves or doing a false vendor scheme. Do you know what that is?
No, explain.
Okay, let's say it be if an employee of one of your companies opens up a bank account under a business name.
Sure.
They ABC painkiller company or ABC gauze company or medical supply company.
And
then
they're
they begin invoicing your company for goods and services that have not been provided to your company. And then they shepherd those through the system and then pay the bills to themselves, to this company that they have set up as a false vendor of your company. I see that a lot.
That's actually really smart.
Another one, diversion of accounts receivable. So you have patients, customers who hopefully paid their bills. But if they don't pay their bills, that's it's account receivable that is aging. What sometimes employees do is they grab those checks from the mail coming into your company, negotiate them themselves, because we all know the bank's not looking at the check, right? You're just depositing it in your bank account, usually with an app, and then you shred the check or whatever. And then those accounts receivable continue to age on your books. And so you need to have a more aggressive collection of your accounts receivable to make, and so the customer will actually say, no, Tomo, I paid that bill a month ago. And they show you the canceled check, they show you the back of the canceled checks, and then you can see where it was negotiated and get to the bottom of this.
When you say negotiated, so like these employees are going to the bank and they're
either depositing it or cashing the check. That's how you negotiate
on behalf of the company.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or they sign the company name and then sign their name underneath it, right? Because we all learned in Business 101 class that a check is a negotiable instrument. As soon as I sign that check, I can give it to someone else to negotiate.
Man. What's your thoughts on law enforcement and government today, like from coming to the outside?
I think I'm saddened by the loss of faith in the police over the past decade.
Mm-hmm.
I think the kind of policeman was your friend era of my youth is gone. And I think we've lost something as a nation from that.
Yeah.
I think policing is a very difficult job. And I think a couple really unfortunate incidents with the police, I mean, even going back to the Rodney King beating, have kind of tarred otherwise good cops with bad reputations. And I'd like to see that repaired over time, but I just don't know how to make that happen.
I've heard of that being kind of a pendulum swing as well. Kind of like where cops are hated, cops are loved. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like it kind of goes back and forth.
It's a shame.
But the media is making it much harder.
Well, that's the thing. Social media, again, they make money by dividing us, right?
Sure.
And so the idea that police are bad or every cop's racist is a problematic meme out there, which may have some basis in reality, but probably not the basis in reality you think it does.
The every cop's racist thing is absolutely ridiculous to me.
It's stupid. It's just dumb thinking.
I saw an interview. I saw a panel interview. I think it was mostly with black men and women, and the cops were also black men and women. Mm-hmm. And they were trying to spin the story of like, in police academy, they taught us to make sure we target the black and Hispanic. I'm like, who the fuck taught you? I'm like, that didn't happen.
That's not.
You're lying.
It's not a thing.
Yeah, it's not a thing. It's not real.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like when I see shit like that, I'm just like, but then when people see it they just take it as truth.
Right.
If CNN reports, they take it as truth.
Right.
It's insanity.
But I also would argue that police, for that reason, need to kind of up their professionalism. And
agreed.
And there's never a downside of being polite and professional to the people you deal with. Always have a plan on how if things break bad, you're going to deal with it. But
be capable.
Right. Exactly. But it's easy to start out as a nice guy and then dial it up to asshole if you need to.
Yeah.
You start out as an asshole. There's no bringing it down after that.
Yeah. I never was the asshole cop on the road. I never was rude to people. I'm sure I had I'm sure I had a day. We've all had a day.
Right.
But for most of the time of my career, even if it was like drug dealer, even if a dude fought me, like once I got him in handcuffs, I was like, hey, you gotta you ever go to a boxing gym, like maybe learn how to fight a little bit. Like I mess with them. It's like just a human. I
was taught by an instructor at the academy something really valuable that I took to heart in my law enforcement career. It's not the law enforcement officer job to punish people, right? Your job is not to punish people. Your job as a police officer is very different. It's, keep the peace, et cetera.
Sure.
But as an investigator, all I'm supposed to be doing is calling the balls and strikes, finding out what happened, getting down to the truth of things.
The truth.
Right? And what happens after that is the systems problem, right? So I don't have a vested interest. I never had a vested interest in seeing what the sentence was on the people that I went to prison. Because I have to serve the time, right?
Yeah.
I don't get to keep the license plates they make in prison.
Yeah.
And, my job is to make sure that the judge, the jury, the prosecutor, and everyone involved is fully informed about the truth of what happened. Then after that, it's the system's fault as far as what happens to this person.
Yeah, well, your job is to uncover the truth.
Absolutely. But again, I think...
Oh, it's the name of the episode.
Fuck. Nailed it. Swish.
Nailed it. What was that? What was the movie where it's like, You know, talking about that. We got to put that in the meme, bro.
Yeah, nothing but net.
Yeah, no, but your job as the investigator, you uncover the truth. After that, it doesn't matter.
Right.
My job was to keep the peace, whether the situation was already violent and then turning that violence into a peaceful situation, or protecting somebody. We were. You know what I loved? My job title in, I think it was Ohio, not in Florida, but my job title in Ohio was peace officer.
Yeah, a lot of municipalities went with that term.
And we went with peace officer. And I'm like, fuck, I like that name. You know what I mean?
It's nice. It's
police
got a nice
officer or, you know, deputy or whatever. Like those are cool, but like peace officer, it's like old Western style.
Yeah, it does seem old school.
Yeah, they used to call them peace officers back in the day because what are we there for?
Yeah, keep the peace.
We're there to keep the peace.
Yeah,
You know, some of those things some of the ways that we keep the peace, we got to go to war. Well, most of the time we don't.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I mean, again, you need to be trained. You need to be ready to escalate at a moment's notice, but that can't be unprovoked.
Yeah. Talk to me about, not just from a law enforcement standpoint, but from a personal standpoint. Talk to me about integrity. Talk to me about honor. This is something huge for me. One of the things, when people ask me for my values and principles, I actually just said this on a previous podcast, and they were like, what's your value system? And I said, I try to constantly walk with honor and integrity in all things that I do.
Yeah. Nothing's more important.
Nothing's more important. So talk to me about because you had integrity is number one in law enforcement.
Sure.
You know what I mean? You have to be able to be trusted,
right?
You know, and be honest. And being called a liar in our profession is death. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? Even though every freaking lawyer in our profession calls us a liar
I know.
all day in court.
They're just doing their job. Yeah. Well, I completely agree. And I think you and I operate very much the same in our day-to-day lives. And you know, and it needs to come from the heart. It can't be an act. I mean, the FBI's motto is fidelity, bravery, integrity. And so the idea that you know, when you're in that room with piles of cash and drugs and there's no one else around and no one would ever find out if you took the money, you still don't do it because it's the wrong thing to do and it's not who we are. And so it's important. You have to live it every single day. It shouldn't be a challenge. It should just be who you are. And these moral you see enough people who kind of compromise that throughout the course of your life that you realize the repercussions and the fact that doesn't really pay off in the long run.
Makes you feel icky too.
Yeah, I mean, right. We've all done that thing where
We've
you just
all
got that
lied.
sick feeling in your
just like,
stomach. I grew up Catholic. I had a guilty conscience over nothing nowadays.
Yeah, I grew up Catholic as well. So Roman Catholic, 100% Croatian.
Yeah.
So that's, you know what I mean?
Yeah, trust me. We're still unwinding from that damage.
yeah. It's like everything that you do. It's like a whipping.
Right. Yeah, it's just perpetual.
It's like, I'm going to hell. Yeah, going to hell again.
It's a guilt trip. Yeah, exactly. How much time am I going to do in purgatory for this?
Oh my God, so funny.
Rattling my metal cup against the bars for
purgatory.
Yeah.
Holy shit! If you're not Catholic, just look it up.
Hoping that someone down there is going to say a mass for me so I can get sprung early.
Yeah. If you're not Catholic, trust me, look it up. It's quite hysterical, but it's scary when you're a kid.
Yeah.
Went to Catholic school in high school until 10th grade.
Yeah. My first public institution was college. Yes.
Well, all right. What do you think? So going back to law enforcement and government today, what do you think needs to change for law enforcement and public perception? You hit on a little bit professionalism.
Yeah, I think law enforcement needs to up the professionalism, needs to figure out how to get rid of the perception of bias. I think though that the police need to figure out a way to, without violating anyone's rights, take back the streets. You know, what I'm seeing in some of these states with where the police are not willing to get out of their cars because and they're not getting the support from the prosecutors and the local governments to actually do what they're hired to do in the police. I think that's a shame, and I think as a result there have been a lot of crime problems. You see these videos on the internet where with just masses of people going into stores and just looting them all at once, and
that's
everyone's
crazy.
just standing by.
California, New York, and shit.
And everyone's just standing by and watching it happen. That's not a sustainable way to run a country. That's how a country collapses.
Yeah.
And good policing is the difference between us being in like a maniacal third world banana republic and being in the civilized nation what we want to live in. But we just need to figure out how to do it right.
Yeah, well said. That's one of the major reasons I left law enforcement was exactly what you just said.
Interesting.
I felt like I couldn't do my job.
You felt like you were being hamstrung by your superiors?
100%.
Interesting.
Yeah, I felt like you can't do certain things. Don't behave this way. Oh, you're being called racist, therefore you are racist. I'm like,
interesting.
I'm like, the entire community that I worked with was black. Who the fuck am I being racist against? If anybody, I'm being racist to the white people coming in and buying heroin and crack because I know they're coming in there to buy that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like when all that started happening, I just started sitting on my hands. I'm like, fine. I'm like, I'll go when I'm called.
I hate hearing that, Tomo.
It sucked. Well, that's why I left the agency.
Yeah.
That's why I left profession.
Yeah.
But that's what was happening all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of good cops left the profession because of that, because political pressure,
Mm-hmm.
because of, the racial divide, because of the political divide.
Yeah.
God forbid we did our jobs.
Right.
God forbid that we were going after the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's a lot of the reason why I left, a lot of the reason why a lot of my colleagues left. And now you look at, law enforcement today, ain't like it used to be. It's, what I mean?
Again, I'll defer to your expertise there because the FBI really has not changed much.
You guys are different.
We're always very posh.
You guys wear fancier suits.
Yeah, exactly.
We're still in the blue polyester.
Yeah. And so it's again, I have nothing but love and respect for police officers.
Same, yeah.
But I do not equate myself with that because the police had just a totally completely different job.
Yeah.
I mean, again, there's 12,000 FBI agents in a nation with 360 million people. So we had to pick the cases that we thought would have the greatest impact and the greatest likelihood of success.
Yeah.
Police are just drinking from a fire hose of social problems.
Yeah, and there's well over millions of police officers. I don't know how many.
Yeah.
But and then you'd go depending on municipality, depending on the direction of the country, depending on the governor. I mean, some you can't, like you literally couldn't do your job. Remember, was it Washington State? Wasn't it Seattle when they took over half the city?
Yeah, they had that encampment there.
So was it like Antifa or some
it
shit?
had a name. I can't remember what the name of it was. It has a silly name though. Yeah.
We got to find that out. It was so funny. I'm looking at that. I'm like, hold the fuck on. I'm like, this is in America?
That was a crazy summer.
I'm like, this is in America. I'm like, they took over Seattle.
Yeah.
Was it Seattle?
Yeah, it was.
I think it was.
They had a name for it. What was the name of that
I don't remember.
that encampment that was a sizable part of the city that they
Someone
were ruling?
comment on the bottom of this video, please. If you're watching this right now, we have to know.
I just wanted to forget that era so much. I'm trying to block it out.
It was honestly, I'm like, this has got to be a movie.
Yeah.
This can't be real.
Yeah.
So I've been doing this lately in these podcasts.
Yeah.
And I do some rapid fire questions.
Wait on me.
I got 4 of them here for you.
Okay.
First one. What's your go-to source for truth?
My go-to source for truth.
It's a hard one.
God, like what media source do I trust?
And maybe it's not media. Maybe it's a search engine. Maybe it's just kind of media as well. Maybe it's ChatGPT.
I've been using ChatGPT lately, but I mean, it's more like are these numbers bad for my cholesterol or am I going to be okay? I mean, it's like more practical stuff rather than like, what's the meaning of life, ChatGPT? I should probably ask it that.
Which is hilarious.
But man, AI is really something. And so, so I've been, when it comes to diet and exercise, I'm 55 now, right? So longevity has been a real focus for me.
Sure.
And so, when it comes to diet and exercise and the things that matter, you sit and, the algorithms found me. They know that's my obsession now. So everything is just advice, a lot of which goes against each other, right? This person is saying that if you have high cholesterol, statins are absolutely going to kill you and put you in an old folks home with Alzheimer's. This guy here is saying that unless you get your cholesterol down, it won't matter at all because you can have a grabber and have a heart attack and you're going to die. So, you feed that stuff into ChatGPT and ask it, what's the consensus out there? Are there ways other than statins, things I can be doing to get my cholesterol down? Because I was dealt a bad genetic hand there. And so
we can talk about this.
I'm all ears.
We can talk about this. So like when you're talking about statins are actually really bad for you.
I'm coming to that conclusion, or I'm coming to the conclusion that they should be a last resort and not a permanent lifestyle.
Truly. But like when it comes to something like cholesterol, we did a gene test on my medical director. His name's Dr. Joseph Clark.
Okay.
And he had the same problem. Yeah. But his whole life, his cholesterol was always high.
Yeah.
And he's always having these issues and he can never get it down.
Triglycerides also?
I think so.
Yeah, because I'm more worried about my triglyceride numbers than
triglycerides are usually related to more dietary issues.
Right, which I need to fix, obviously.
Which, I mean, eat lean meats, eat some vegetables, don't eat too many carbs and processed foods. You're kind of good on triglycerides. But when it comes to cholesterol, no matter what he did, it was always high.
Yeah.
So he did this genetic test, and I forgive me, I don't remember what it was. It was like EGFR gene or some shit like that. And he ended up using basically they told him, hey, you have this gene mutation.
Right.
This is causing you to have high cholesterol. The way you fix it is like methylated folate and like methyl B12 or something like that. He took 2 supplements, down.
Well, I'd love to know what those are.
So like you do a gene test and it's that quick.
I'm positive it's genetic. I mean, again, my lifestyle's pretty good.
But again, so it's like if you can just get that data, that's what we do at the clinic. Like my medical clinic, we do the gene testing, we do the hormone therapy, we do the hormone optimization, the anti-aging stuff, peptide therapy, stem cells, you name it.
Yeah.
But we're trying to figure out what's going on the inside. to get away from the, I can go tinfoil hat, the big pharma, the big med model that's big pharma.
All right.
It is what it is.
What do you think of berberine and metformin?
Love them.
Yeah.
Great. Metformin's a miracle drug.
Yeah.
It's a miracle drug. Did they get a Nobel Prize for that? I don't know.
What's that?
They might have got a Nobel Prize for metformin on what it actually was supposed to do.
Perhaps, yeah.
If they didn't, they should have.
Yeah.
It's a miracle drug.
Yeah.
Anti-aging as well.
Yeah. And that's that's been my, it's all relatively new. That's been my solution to see if I can clean things up with that.
Yeah. So, finding source of truth, ChatGPT, I'm kind of with you.
Yeah,
it's cool because it can compile information.
That's what I like about it. Not that any one source is going to be good, but the ability of it to compile so much information in one place has been helpful. But I'm like in my freshman year of ChatGPT. I just paid for the premium. I'm just kind of getting into it. I'm using it as a resource for those kind of vexing questions as I move into old age.
Yeah, I trained a couple GPTs to basically be experts in my industry, experts in my company, and then an expert on me.
Right.
It's very fun.
Yeah, and it's neat. Like and it seems to understand what I am also like for a living and stuff like that too, which is kind of.
Can you really do a write up on yourself?
Yeah, I can do that, but I'm also, I'm using it I'm also trying to get into public speaking. I want to get out there and kind of talk to business people, like when they're internal audit groups and things a lot of people are thrust into financial investigations without any training whatsoever, and so I'd like to give them a familiarization class, speaking at the Institute for Internal Auditors or regulatory groups and people out there, accounting groups who are just thrust into investigations to talk about what to look for and how to organize a fraud investigation. So I got some good content there, and so now I'm using ChatGPT to identify potential targets for me to market those to. And so it's been really useful.
It's awesome, man. Really good. Next question.
All right.
Have you ever feared for your life on the job?
Yes. Okay. Short story. I was undercover. I was posing as a homeless person who was being recruited from a homeless shelter for a counterfeit check cashing ring. Basically, bad guy puts me in his car and drives me from bank to bank to bank to bank, cashing counterfeit checks. And what he didn't know is that we had like a team of FBI agents and an airplane following us. I had like tons of surveillance following me to keep me safe. But what I didn't know getting in the car is that he was a hardcore heroin addict, and so he was snorting heroin while he was driving like 90 miles an hour down the like residential streets in Chicago, and asking me in the passenger seat to hold on to the steering wheel so he could snort the heroin. I wasn't worried about him killing me for being an undercover agent. I was worried about him killing us in a car accident. Yeah, and so that was terrifying.
Snorting heroin while driving 90 miles an hour. Holy shit.
Yeah, he was out of his mind high. I mean, he was a hardcore addict, and which is why he was having me do the scam to feed his habit. Yeah.
Heroin was apparently expensive.
Yeah, so hopefully he got rehab in prison.
Hopefully. One piece of advice for someone considering to work for the FBI or private investigations.
Yes, we'll start with the FBI. I think a lot of young people fall into the trap of majoring in criminology or criminal justice or even psychology. Do you really?
I have a major in criminology.
Oh boy. Well, I'm going to say really mean things about your major.
Please, let's do it. This is worthless.
It's a worthless major.
It's worthless.
It's a worthless major.
Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah. And so the fact that you went into law enforcement at all is nothing short of a miracle. Most people who do that are.
I graduated with it after I went to law enforcement.
Okay. Which is what it's there for, right? Yeah. It's there for people who the whole reason a criminal justice degree exists as a field of study was when the New York police officer who's on the job and wants to get that promotion, but you need a college degree to do it. He can go to school at night. You don't have to hit the books real hard. It's an easy major.
That's exactly what it did.
Yeah. And but the problem is,
it was pretty easy.
These universities, these sons of bitches at the universities are selling those degrees to 17-year-old kids, saying you're going to be an FBI agent if you get this degree. Wow. And these people are going into student loan debt and wasting 4 years of their lives getting this worthless degree. And then the FBI doesn't see that as a degree worth a damn.
They don't care.
There's not a law enforcement agency in America who prefers that degree, right? The FBI wants young people to major in engineering of any kind, computer science, biology, chemistry, physics, accounting, finance, or law school. Nothing else. You do that, you work for 2 years in that field, and you're going to fly through the FBI application process. You're going to be a great agent. You're going to come into the job knowing how to solve problems. Got it. And so I guess that would be my biggest advice to young people who watch this, who are considering a career in the FBI or really any law enforcement. Stay away from your political science, sociology, psychology, criminology, and criminal justice. Those end up being low-paying cul-de-sacs where you're really not that employable, and certainly not with the FBI.
Got it. Yeah. A little bit higher standards with the FBI.
Yeah.
And then what about private investigation work?
Private investigation work is more, it's more license-based. You need to take a look at the state that you're in and figure out what the licensing requirements are. For most states, it's probably going to be like a 40-hour class. It's like a certification thing. The problem, though, is not becoming a private investigator. Any moron can do it. The problem is convincing people to hire you to investigate their situations. And so most private investigators out there are making $25 an hour doing 8 hours of surveillance a day on workman's comp cases. And, waiting for that guy who is on disability from his company to get up on his roof and start like re-shingling it, even though his back, he can't move. And so
got it.
It's a rough way to make a living. And so my recommendation for anyone who dreams of being a private investigator would be to go into law enforcement and then do it as a post-retirement job, because those are the people who are making the money because they have credibility with potential clients.
They have credibility and they have actual experience in investigations.
Right.
Makes sense.
Again, there's excellent private investigators out there who kind of went into the field, but I promise there were some lean years there at the beginning.
Sure. Now, this question I did not write, but I'm gonna actually do it a 2-part question.
Okay.
What's your favorite top 3 movies?
Oh, okay. If you count them as 2 movies, which you should, Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction.
Ooh,
right.
Nice. Okay.
Okay. And third one, probably Goodfellas.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the question that I have written on here, which my team all helps me with these, it said favorite movie, TV show about investigations, realistic or not.
No, okay.
Exactly.
So, okay.
Gary, it'd be like you watching a firefighter show.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
Okay. 2 movies that got it right.
Okay.
Okay.
There you go. 2 movies that got it right.
2 movies that got the FBI right.
Okay.
And a lot of movies didn't. Let me start with the ones that don't. A buddy of mine just hosted a party with dudes over there eating Chinese food and watching the Jackie Chan movie Rush Hour.
Listen, best movie. Best movie. Come on.
Right, okay. The scene in the beginning, though, where he's a hardworking cop who then gets the call and gets promoted to FBI agent from the police department and spends the rest of the time with an FBI badge and an FBI. I'm like, that imprinted on so many people's minds, young people who contact me, like, well, you got to be a police officer first. Then if you do a good job, you get promoted. Like the police are the minor leagues and the FBI is the show. It drives me up the wall.
I mean, it's the FBI is kind of the show, but it's like.
It's not how it works.
No.
You got to apply. You got to apply like everyone else and go through the academy and do all that stuff. And it degrades police officers. So everything about it is just wrong.
They're very different. They're very different professions.
2 movies that get it right.
Got it.
The Town with Ben Affleck.
Great fucking movie.
Yeah, but also captured the FBI agent in it. The guy, I can never remember his name. The guy who was in Mad Men. He was the FBI agent in that.
Yeah, I can't remember his name either.
Yeah. But
we could pop him up on the screen over here.
Yeah, great actor.
Yes.
But more importantly, the script was written by like a guy who clearly knew FBI culture.
Was that the movie where who's
Ben Affleck's the bank robber?
Did Ben Affleck come in there and he talked to Jeremy Renner and he's like, hey, he's like, don't ask any questions. He's like, but we're gonna go somewhere. We're gonna hurt some people. He's like, whose car are we taking?
Yeah.
Fuck, that was a good scene.
It's a great, it's just a fantastic movie.
Fantastic
but
movie.
Like, there's a part of the FBI where they're sitting around talking about this bank robbery because the agents and how are we going to catch these guys? And someone's like, well, let's put them under 24/7 surveillance.
Yep.
And the agent says, unless one of these fucking idiots converts to Islam, we're not going to get the resources to do it.
That's so funny. True.
I was like 2003 or whatever. I'm like, yeah, I know that.
Yeah. You're like, yep, 100% accurate.
Yeah. And so that was good. The other one that got it right was Wolf of Wall Street.
Great movie.
Yeah,
too.
again,
that was a wild movie.
Yeah, a great movie also. But and it wasn't the focal point of the movie, but the way the FBI agents,
the investigation that went behind it,
handled themselves during their interactions was just absolutely on the nose perfect.
You weren't involved in that investigation, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
Making sure.
Yeah.
Before your time, I think, right?
I mean, it's my kind of case, but it's not. But I just wasn't an agent at the time in the city that it was occurring.
Super cool case. Though.
Yeah, really great. Yeah.
He's back. He's back now.
Oh, he's out there in the public speaking circuit, writing
He's
books.
killing it.
Yeah.
I mean, did his time?
Yeah, hey, paid his debt to society. I'm not looking to, what he did was not worth a life sentence, so he deserves to move on.
All right. Where can people find you? Instagram, website? It could be business or it could be personal, whatever you're feeling.
Yeah, anyone who's looking for me, go to Simon Investigations on TikTok or LinkedIn, and there's a one of those link trees there, which has a link to it, or you can just go to simoninvestigations.com. The phone numbers you see plastered out there is my cell phone. I don't have like we
need to get you a private assistant or something like that.
It's all right. I mean, sometimes people call me like, oh my God, you're the guy from TikTok. I go, yes. And they go, we just want to know if you're real. I go, I'm real. They go, all right, well, thanks. I go, have a nice day. So it's no big deal.
Yeah.
And part of the job is taking calls from people who might need help. And so happy to do that.
And then Your Instagram, obviously 300K followers. Your TikTok is
191,000 at this point.
Wow, you're killing it, bro.
It's good.
And you have your own YouTube channel as well?
I have it's just the same content. So I'm not doing what you're doing on YouTube.
Got it.
I post I'm in the shorts.
But we're going to get you on the YouTube. We're going to get you. You got to get you out public speaking, man. We got to get you out.
Well, I'd like to do more public speaking gigs. Yeah.
You know, but getting some of those long form YouTubes for you, I think would be really good.
I think it's a good idea. You get into a point, do I want to be a content creator or do I want to be an investigator? And
Sure.
so, the idea of hosting a podcast like you do, or kind of like, a true crime podcast or something like that, it's an interesting idea.
Maybe not a true crime podcast, but maybe like what you're doing right now, but more in a long form type of idea. I think it might be good.
I know how much work you put into the show and it looks like it. Your show's fantastic.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
But you also have a cast of thousands working for you. I'm a one-man shop and my job is investigating.
Yeah.
And so any social media clout that I have, I'd like to steer that into the idea that people are going to hire me to conduct investigations.
Gotcha.
That's
Understood.
That's my passion still.
You're doing a great job, man.
Well, thanks, man.
It's
I appreciate
absolutely
it.
awesome.
Yeah.
Anything that you'd like to leave the audience with? Any last little gems you'd like to leave them with? I mean, this has been an impactful conversation. We're going to have a conversation after this because we may have work to do. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. I wish I had some giant thing. I mean, be kind to others. Try to practice empathy, which is different than sympathy. Try to see the world through other people's eyes. Yep. You're going to be a better investigator that way, but you're also going to be a better father, husband, and neighbor. When you try to understand how other people are looking at the world, it's not a soft, wimpy thing to do. It's a tactical move to make you better in everything you do.
I love that, man. I think your thoughts on empathy. I think what empathy taught you made you a better person all around. Definitely a better investigator.
Oh, yeah.
And makes you better at your solopreneurship, your entrepreneurship journey right now.
Yeah, being able to talk to the client and see the world through their eyes and understand how much pain they're in when they've lost their life savings because they made a terrible decision, rather than scolding them, listen to them and understand what their issues were.
It's awesome, man. Well, Tom, I appreciate you.
Tomo, thanks for having me on, buddy.
Thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate the conversation, and I think we're gonna have some business going in a little bit.
All right, this is fun.
Yeah, cheers, man.
Thanks.